let's talk about the best HIIT, high intensity interval training exercises for maximum fat burning, okay? Now I'm going to give you examples of lots of high intensity interval training exercises that you can do. And then I'm going to tell you the number one exercise that just blows everything else away. But first, let me just explain what HIIT exercises are. It's a super high intensity, short duration type exercise that produces some seriously high growth hormone spike and other benefits. And the cool thing about it is because you're using this high intensity, short duration exercise, you're not going to be doing a tremendous amount of it. So it's a quicker workout, which takes less time for those busy people. But let's just kind of like dissect what exercise really is. You have 4 parts. Okay, you have the duration or time, you have the intensity of the exercise, and then you have the recovery after the exercise, and then you also have how many times you do this specific exercise. How long do you do it? How long do you rest? And then how many repetitions of that are you going to do? So typically when you're doing HIIT or high intensity interval training, you're doing it only for like 30 to 60 seconds, maybe a little bit longer, maybe a little bit shorter. And then you're resting between 30 seconds or usually like a minute to 5 minutes. And then you're doing this 3 times to 7 times. And then as far as per week, you might do it, I don't know, once or twice or 3 times per week. That's kind of like the pattern. Now, if we take a look at why high intensity interval training works, we want to look at these variables a little bit deeper. Intensity is the key factor in exercise that stimulates muscle growth and also stimulates growth hormone, okay? Now, if we have a low intensity and high duration, a long period of time of exercise, so let's say you're just jogging down the street over a long period of time. It's not very intense, but you're just jogging for like 45 minutes. You will not stimulate growth hormone near as strong as compared to if you do a short duration, high intensity type workout. Now, the other key thing about this is this recovery part too, because if you don't recover from this intensity, you're not going to see the results nearly as strong as if you did take in consideration the recovery. Now, recovery is an individual thing. Each person has a different ability to recover. All right, I just want to show you one last thing and we'll go right to the exercises. When you start an exercise and you raise your pulse rate, you're really stimulating the sympathetic nervous system, okay? So this is all about stimulating the sympathetic flight or fight mechanism. The pulse rate goes up, it adapts to the body changes, it gets blood flow through the body, and then at some point you stop, okay? And you're resting. That's this part right here. This is the parasympathetic nervous system control. It's called rest and digest. So the second you stop working out, this system actively comes in there and starts to push your pulse rate down. It starts to get your body down into this resting pulse rate and rest state. So it's actually pushing things down. It's a wave pattern. The problem with most people is they don't really see this system. They don't understand it's an active system that needs to be strengthened. And the way you strengthen it is after you work out, you let your body recover long enough. So when you do this pattern of exercise to recovery, realize that this rest period is very, very important to pay attention to and give your body a chance to fully recover. In fact, I recommend that you use your pulse rate and add more rest to let your pulse rate come down to close to the resting state. So instead of doing a pattern of, 60 seconds to a minute, maybe do 60 seconds to 4 or 5 minutes rest, especially when you start out. That way you can minimize overtraining and you can start to strengthen your recovery system. You strengthen your parasympathetic nervous system control. All right, let me give you some examples of HIIT exercises that are really good. Plyometrics. That is a sudden burst of energy, whether you're hopping on a platform or you're doing some type of explosive motion, okay? I have some old videos of me jumping on a stump back and forth, but that's plyometrics, a really good type of HIIT exercise. Jumping rope is another good example of a HIIT exercise. Burpees, another good one. Doing kickboxing. But with kickboxing, you have to make sure that you rest in between because sometimes they'll push you to the point where there's no recovery. But with kickboxing, you can actually have some explosive movements. A spin bike, that's another great workout where you can actually do a very short burst of intense exercise using your legs. It's going to get your lungs and your heart, and then you would rest. Kettlebell is another one. The Bulgarian bag, which I'm actually doing right now, which I love, it's like a sandbag that you're doing these different motions and you're whipping them over your body. And you talk about full body intensity. Boy, you can't do this for more than a minute and you have to rest. CrossFit is pretty intense. The problem that I see with CrossFit is that it's really good if you're younger, but as soon as you get older, you better make sure that you recover a lot longer because you need a short burst of high intensity with good recovery, and you have to make sure that you don't have injuries because it can be very traumatic. Okay, number 10, cross-country skiing. Now I'm talking about those machines that you're simulating cross-country skiing, and you can create some serious intensity. In fact, you can burn a tremendous amount of calories with cross-country skiing. Push-ups and sit-ups, you don't really even need any equipment. You can do it without that, using your own body weight. Jumping jacks is another one. Mountain climber exercise is another one. It's pretty intense. And all of these are great, but the number one high-intensity interval training exercise is sprinting, okay? They call it sprinting interval training, okay? SIT. In a meta-analysis of over 70 studies, they found that sprinting produced the most fat burning and the least amount of time doing it, which is very, very cool. So when they compared sprint interval training, which is really as a subtype of high intensity interval training, and they compare these two, there was 39.95% higher reduction of fat, overall body fat, and using a little more than 60% less time. So you're spending less time burning more fat if you compare sit exercises to HIIT exercises. Now, when they compared sprint interval training to MICT, which stands for moderate intensity continuous training, which is not quite as intense and it's longer, there was over a 91% higher reduction of body fat using 71% less time. So that's really cool. So let me explain a little bit more about how to do this, okay? Because it's slightly different. You're doing an all-out 100% effort. You're going as hard and as fast as you can using your whole body, okay? That's number one. You're not using like 80% of maximum intensity. You're just flat out going as fast as you can. Next thing is you're using very short duration. You're going to find that if you're going to sprint, you can't go very, very far, okay? Because you're doing this anaerobically without oxygen in your cells, and you're going to run out of oxygen really fast. But it's a great, great workout, not just for fat burning, but overall health. I mean, if you think about like a 100-yard dash, right? These guys are sprinting 100 yards, and a really good time would be like 12, 11, 10 seconds. I think the world record was like 9 point something seconds. I mean, that is a very, very short workout, right? Well, what I'm talking about is doing a sprint for like 30 seconds up to 60 seconds. Now, for what I'm talking about with the sprinting, I'm talking about maybe you start out with 15-second sprints, okay? Working your way up to 30-second sprints, and maybe eventually up to 60-second sprints. But most people won't get up to 60. They'll stay at 30-second sprints. So that's a very short workout, right? So it's a shorter workout, but your rest has to be longer. You want to rest between 2 and 4 minutes with a full rest. You don't want to jog in place. You want to sit down, let your pulse rate come all the way down to normal. So this is your workout, okay, if you're going to do sprinting. Maybe you find a place where there's a park, nice soft grass. You start out doing your 15-second sprints, okay? And you're going to do 4 to 6 of those, okay? Maybe you start just with 4 of those. And then you're going to rest for between 2 and 4 minutes and you can check your pulse rate until you're really calm And then you would do it again back and forth for about 4 to eventually 6 sprints in a given workout. And you would only do that twice a week. That would produce way more fat burning than any of these right here. I'll put the link down below of the research. All right, and lastly, since we're on the topic of fat burning, if you want to speed up your fat burning, okay, you need to see this video right here. Check this one out next.